Has your mind been hijacked? It has, and so has mine. And our minds will continue to be hijacked because it is part of the unconscious mind's job. However, when we have all the parts of our being working in alignment, this happens less often. And when it does hijack us, which it still will, remember, because it's doing its job, it will be hijacking us and running the programs that will serve us. This is part of the powers that we have as humans. We can have all the parts of our being working in alignment, and that's when we stay in flow. That's when we notice when we're getting out of alignment and we can bring ourselves back. So that's what this video is all about. When we're in alignment, we know this is when we're in flow. This is when we feel like everything is easy. This is when we see all of those amazing opportunities and they're just coming at us really fast, and everything just seems to fall into place almost automatically. Well, it's not really magic, but yet again, it is. You see, what's happening when we're in flow, when we're in alignment, is that all the parts of our being are working as they were designed. And we're working with our own energy and our own intentions and our desires and our dreams. And we're able to convey a vision. Other people understand it because we're clear in our communication, and we set goals and then we achieve them regularly and with ease. This is all possible when we're in alignment. Now, when we're in battle with ourselves, which happens when we're out of alignment, this is when everything seems hard. And it is, because we're fighting against ourselves. We're fighting against the different parts of ourselves that we may not be aware of, or maybe we are just beginning to be aware of. This is something that will happen, and it will continue to happen. Like I said, you have been hijacked and you will be hijacked in the future. When we understand how our mind works and how we can use all the parts of ourselves working together for our purposes, this is when everything comes together. So how your unconscious mind works is it runs programs. This is the sole purpose of the unconscious mind. It runs those programs in order to keep us alive. Now, the unconscious mind hears everything we say. It also hears whatever we hear. It hears whatever we feed into it by the TV, by what we're watching on YouTube, what we're reading. The unconscious mind forgets nothing, experiences everything that we experience, has a perfect memory, but it also does not have a filter. Now, this can be part of the challenge because everything we're taking in, everything we have taken in the past is all stored there, sort of like a file cabinet, and everything gets stored into its proper places. And then we'll experience something today in the now, and our unconscious will bring something back. And I just want to say, if I've used subconscious and unconscious interchangeably, it's because we used to call this part of our mind the subconscious under our consciousness. It's not our conscious mind. And there were three parts of our mind. For simplification, I'm now using only the conscious and the unconscious. Most of psychology, personal development uses just the two now because it's not completely necessary to separate into three. And it does confuse things a little bit. So I just wanted to say that if I accidentally use subconscious instead of unconscious, I'm still talking about the same part. So our unconscious is like a file cabinet. It doesn't filter anything. It just sorts things and puts them into the places where they can be easily retrieved when they become called for. When we're triggered by something, which we are, all of us are, this is when it comes out of that file cabinet. Now, when it comes out of that file cabinet, remember, it's not being filtered. We may not consciously be aware that it's even there. We may not even recognize it when it comes up into our conscious mind as what it is. It's just a file. It's just a program. It's just an underlying operating system. But when we think about this like a computer, this is when we can take the judgment out of what's going on, because often what happens when we've been hijacked is that we then beat ourselves up about it. You may have recognized this. You're in a conversation with someone, you were intending to say one thing, but what they heard was something completely different, or what you said was something completely different. Now, because when we're in conversation, there's lots of things going on at the same time in their mind, in your mind. We can't control what's going on in their mind. Sometimes, as we're hijacked, we can't even control what's going on in our own mind. But we like to guess what the other person is saying based on what we're hearing. This is, again, it's the way we're designed. Where the challenge comes up is where you intend to say one thing, it doesn't come out clearly, the other person misunderstands you, and the next thing you know, you're arguing. Or you become triggered. This happens all the time. A couple days ago, I was in a conversation and that was what happened. And the most amazing thing, when I was able to recognize it in real time while it was occurring, I was able to take a pause and I was able to ask the other person to pause with me. And the beauty of it is because the two of us are similar in our growth journeys. We have these conversations a lot. And sometimes what I'm saying is not the way that they're saying it. And even though we may be talking about the same general concept, our way of understanding it is different. But it doesn't mean that we're disagreeing. But sometimes it really feels that way. So in real time, I was able to take a pause and then get back into the conversation and reminding that the words, the specific words, are not the most important part of this conversation. It's the concept. And if we know that a wave or a way, and these are just some examples, we can sometimes say that's a way of doing things or that's the wave, and they sound the same. So sometimes what the other person hears is not what we said. Sometimes what we intend to say is not what comes out of our mouth. And when we've become hijacked and then we become triggered by a conversation that all of a sudden feels uncomfortable and we don't know how we got there, this is often what is occurring. It's only a miscommunication. And most of the time, it's on both parts. And one thing I also want to remind you of, when we become triggered by a conversation or something we hear, when we recognize what's going on and we pause, this is when we've taken back our power. If we allow ourselves to spiral because we've been hijacked, we're giving away our power. This does not serve us. When we recognize the ways that we give away our power on a regular basis, and we recognize that we don't have to do that even when we've been hijacked, because we will continue to be hijacked. Remember, that's the unconscious mind's job. This is when we truly have our power at our disposal, because I now know that I may become triggered, but I don't have to react. And no one can push my buttons unless I allow them to be pushed. And even if I have allowed them to be pushed in the moment, in the next moment, if I take a pause, or in that moment when I recognized what occurred, I can pause and I can say, no, I am not allowing anything to push my buttons. And anything means anything outside of myself. And for me, it also means entertaining thoughts that come from my unconscious that don't serve me. So some examples of these unconscious thoughts that come up at the weirdest moments for me is that I can't talk to people. I'm afraid to make videos. I can't communicate. These are some of the thoughts that come to me on a regular basis when I'm not practicing, not entertaining those thoughts. Now, when I recognize those thoughts for what they are, they're just an unconscious thought that's come up to my conscious mind. When I'm practicing conscious awareness, I now have the control, and I can decide to continue running on that old program, or I can decide to make an empowering new program. That's what I've been doing along my journey. Once I recognized this and I began doing it on a regular basis, this is when all of the parts of my life work together more regularly Now, will I say everything is perfect? Absolutely not. I'm still human, by the way. So one other thing is when we start practicing awareness, what do we often do is we become completely focused on being aware, but then with that awareness sometimes comes judgment. And when we're judging ourselves or we're judging others based on our awareness, this does not serve us and it doesn't serve the other person. But remember, the other person is responsible for their choices. When we start to become aware of things, we're going to see all kinds of things that we weren't aware of before in ourselves and in others. It's often not helpful to think that we can bring someone else's awareness to something. We can sometimes do that by what we're talking about. But here in this video, you're watching this video because it's something that you are interested in. You have taken that power to hit the play and listen to the video or watch the video. When we're observing something in someone else that they may not be observing yet, and they may not be on their growth journey very far yet, we're all on a growth journey, every single one of us, but we're at different places because it's by design. We don't do things in a linear fashion. And sometimes we may recognize that someone else is doing things that are limiting them or tearing themselves down. But if they're not at that place in their growth journey where they're ready to be aware of it, and we point it out, this can definitely throw that conversation into a loop. So something that I have started to practice along with this is, of course, non-judgment. Not judging myself, not judging my thoughts, not judging my feelings, not judging my actions. Observing what's going on is what I'm doing without judgment. Now, when I say that I'm not judging my actions, what I mean is if I took an action that was not in alignment with what I said I was going to do, I don't judge myself because of it. I'm aware of it. I practice awareness. So I'm able to recognize it more easily than before. But it doesn't mean it's always going to be easy to act in the way that I intended. But if I'm judging myself over the same thing that I was just aware of and I acted against, that again is reinforcing those unconscious programs that I don't do what I intend to do, which for many of us is an unconscious program. If we've set a goal and then we didn't achieve it, again, because it's experienced by the unconscious, it remembers, it stores it away. And then the next time something comes up and we think about setting a goal, or we set a goal and then we start on that path, we can sometimes be pulled back to, we don't do what we intend to do. Again, when we entertain that thought, we've been hijacked. So remember, these things are going to come up. You will be hijacked on a regular basis. This is the unconscious mind's job. And this is the second video about how our minds work. And I'm going to continue making these videos because there is so much about the mind that most people are not aware of. I was not aware of. I've been obsessed about the mind since I was little, because one of my unconscious programs that was built before I was 7, which is where most of these programs come from. And then they come from repetitively doing things later. Every time we do something and then we do it again, it becomes repetitive. Our unconscious, remember, only files everything. So one of my unconscious programs that was built when I was little was when I was told that I had a learning disability. I was told that I didn't think right. And exactly in those words is what my unconscious sometimes brings up, is I don't think right. I don't think like other people. People don't understand me. I can't communicate. So as soon as I recognize what's going on, and I do now, it's not always easy. And I still get hijacked and then spiral due to this. But when it happens now, each moment when I'm aware of it happening, I'm able to take back the power in that moment. And that is my purpose in making these videos. The more we can be aware of how we operate as humans, the easier it is to travel this journey in our human experience. So it becomes a lot more enjoyable. It becomes a lot more fulfilling. It becomes a lot less stressful. And then we can stay in alignment and in flow and in creativity and in certainty, knowing that I don't know it all, and that's okay. I'm human, and I'm practicing this awareness that we were gifted with. This is the purpose of my videos. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know if something's resonating with you. Because when I know that something's resonating with someone, this is when I know that I'm on the right track and that I'm communicating things in a way that makes sense to other people. I know that not everyone is going to understand what it is that I'm putting out here. Some people are going to be completely turned off because many of us, when we're not aware of these things yet, we don't want to believe that we could be hijacked. We want to continue to think that everything outside of ourselves and everyone outside of ourselves has all the control because it's an unconscious program. And as heartbreaking as it is, many of us go to our graves believing that we have no power over ourselves. And to me, it's heartbreaking because this is what became apparent when I was working in my nursing practice. There were two groups of people, basically. Those that recognized what they were experiencing was a sign that they needed to do something different, or they would die, or they would continue to be unhappy and unhealthy. The other group of people saw what was going on as a reminder that everything bad happens to me and I can't change because this is the way I was brought up, or this is because of something that happened to me. When things happen, because this is life, and those two groups of people, besides the recognition of the sign and what that sign meant to them, there was no other difference between those two groups of people. On paper, those two groups of people looked exactly the same demographics. Some of them even had the same doctor, the same diagnosis, diagnosed at the same time, but they had completely different outcomes. And when I recognized this, and I recognized how powerful our minds are, which I had already known, I had a little bit of a primer for this because of my own experience. This was when I was able to really help more of my clients. This is how I decided that I was doing coaching, because I recognized that I could reach a lot more people a lot faster within my lifetime if I did it this way. As a nurse, most of the time we can only impact one person at a time. And if we don't impact that person, we know they're going to continue down their same path. Maybe someone else will be able to take the time with them, but maybe not. And that was what I was experiencing. And I was experiencing like a feeling of responsibility because I have recognized these things and I know that they work. So because of this, when we have increased awareness and we implement it and we know how powerful our human beings are, all of ourselves, our entire being, taking a holistic view. And that's what I mean by when I say our entire being, all the parts of us. So when we recognize how powerful we are, how powerful the thoughts that we think, the beliefs that we hold, the words that we speak are to ourselves, but not only ourselves, to all of those around us, even though they're responsible for their own choices, it's difficult to make different choices if those choices are not modeled for us. And what I mean is, I now am aware. I now am working on my growth journey. Other people recognize this. I've had people ask me, what are you doing? You look younger. You're more confident. This is not the same person that I knew a few years ago. And I'm not. But here's the beauty of it. I'm working with the way I was designed. I'm not working against it. And that is the whole key. So I'm doing a free webinar right now, and it's called Get Out of Your Mind. And in this webinar, I'm going to teach 7 essential keys so that you can make peace with yourself and you can stop being hijacked and then spiraling. You'll still be hijacked, but maybe you won't spiral. This is what the 7 essential keys can do for you. The 7 essential keys are a blueprint or a formula, if you will, and a way that you can over and over again with your practices, because that's what they are, they're practices. You can build your awareness and build new empowering beliefs and get yourself off of autopilot more often, more regularly, and stay in alignment more regularly, and stay in flow, and then create and have more love and more bliss and more fulfillment in your life. That's what this is all about. So I'm going to put that link in the description, and that link is bit.ly/yourmind2022. And part of me making these videos is also so that I can have a conversation with you. Now, that webinar is interactive, so you can let me know what's going on when we're in that webinar together, and let me know what things resonate. And just like this video, leave me a comment. Let me know what it is you're working on or what it is that you're challenged with in this time. And we can also have a conversation one-on-one if you like. You can have a one-on-one call with me, and this is also free. In this one-on-one call, I'm going to put that link in the description as well. What we'll do is just talk about where you are right now and where you see yourself going in the future. Or if you don't have a plan for your future, we can work on that as well and have you think about what would you love in your life. And after you know where you want to be and you know where you are right now, then you can design your first step to get you moving in the direction that you desire. And together we work on this, because sometimes we don't always see the first step that we could take, or we're trying to take that step, but we're going against the way that we were designed. So that's what a coach can do for you. Sometimes when we're deep in our own experience, we can't always see these things the way that someone who is an impartial third party can. And that's what a coach is. Yes, I am deeply caring about you and your progress. However, your progress is not dependent upon my finding the answers for you. That's for you to do. All I am is a guide. And sometimes also not only a guide, but someone that can hold a mirror up for you so that you can see things that you may not be able to see yet. Because when we're deep in a spiral, we often can't find the first step to be getting out of that spiral. And that's what that's all about. And all of this is what my coaching is all about. It's just a way that I can help others who may be dealing with challenges that I have experienced. Trust me, I have experience in challenges that would blow your mind. Either I've experienced it or I have already helped clients through a similar experience. The transformations that my clients have been having, it brings tears to my eyes when I think about it, because often, like I said, we're deep in that spiral and we don't see the first step. And then sometimes that first step is all we need to take that first step over and over and over again until we get to the destination. We get to the life that we desire, or the feelings that we desire, because you already hold them within you. I'll see you on the next video.